Hello, BookTube. We're continuing my library tour of 2022, a visual record of all the books that I have in my possession, plus a couple of weeks there where I did a whole bunch of books I no longer have in my possession, but that I once did. And we are starting in the little book room. A number of you have emailed me over the course of this library tour saying that, given what we know about your little book room, that this is where books come when they are in heaven. These are the non-negotiable parts of your book collection. And that the rest of Hyde Cottage is not. The rest of Hyde Cottage comes and goes. Surely it would have preserved a better dramatic unity if you concluded with the little book room rather than starting with it. There could be some truth to that, but I'm certainly not leaving now. It's going to take us quite some time to finish the little book room. We're crawling along, even at a video a day. And I'm doing one shelf of video, and I am up to a shelf that is at hip level. So I guess I should be stooping, but this shelf was already perfect. I'll have to rearrange everything for tomorrow and the next day, but I figured we've already got this shelf going, might as well. So let's see what this first one is. Ooh, it's not coming willingly. You don't want a shelf that's like that. You want your books to come with the slightest touch. You don't want to be wedging things. Oh, okay, this is one of the Penguin Classic hardcover deluxe editions. This is the Neville Coghill edition of the Canterbury Tales with these illustrations throughout. They've got the cloth bookmark and the sewn binding. Just a very good production that Penguin does here. Where am I going to put this, though? I can't put it back there. I don't need 10 different editions of Chaucer, especially 4 or 5 different editions of Neville Coghill's modern English version of Chaucer. I don't need that at all, but I do have them. Okay. Next we have a trade paperback. God, it's got a lot of stuff into it. A trade paperback of Ronald Sims' The Roman Revolution, his masterwork of Roman history that is cited everywhere. It's a study of the changeover, certain aspects, mostly social, of the changeover from the Rome being a republic to being an empire, to being an autocracy. It's beautiful writing. It's pretty in-depth, but it's a fantastic work, which is why in any subsequent work of Roman history that has any pretensions to seriousness, it will be in the bibliography. It's just universally cited now for this time period. Okay, then we have Pompeo Momenti. Pompeo Momenti. This is an old book. What is this, from the 1960s? Doesn't say. Might even be older than that. This is a guide to Venice, a picture book guide to Venice. It was in very rough shape when it came on board to me. I salvaged it as best I can. This was something called a Travel Lover's Library, and it has tons and tons of black and white photos all throughout. Once upon a time, this will give you the snapshot histories of all of the places that you're likely to walk around when you're visiting Venice. And its charm for me is twofold. One is that once upon a time these were guidebooks. There were no online guides, speaking guides on your phone. There were no small paperback color guides. There was nothing like that. This is what you got if you're going to Venice. And you were expected to want to know the history as well as anything else. That's one appeal. And of course, the other appeal is that this is a different Venice. This is an older Venice, one that the monuments will still be there, but the sentimentality, the look, even sometimes the arrangement will be different. So I have many, many, many books on Venice. They ought to be all together. Even in this little book room, organization is not a sin. But I'm not doing any of that while I go through it. I'm not pulling any doubles. I'm not organizing anything over and over again. We're going to do a snapshot of this room before we do anything else. Okay, then we have John Gould, who for a long time wrote a column for the Christian Science Monitor, and this is the book, his breakout hit, Farmer Takes a Wife. I found it in this original hardcover with a library plastic protection over it. Just fantastic. Story of him and his wife living on a small northeastern farm. It's a century ago. It's incredibly enjoyable. Just not a big thing. It's incredibly enjoyable. I was very happy to see that publisher, I forget who it was, reprinted a couple of volumes of his columns. He wrote an enormous amount, but Farmer Takes Wife will always be the most popular thing that he did. Okay. This is going to have lots of stuff stuck in it. Yes, indeed it does. This is Cal Newport. This is Digital Minimalism. His book on cutting down or cutting out the digital aspects of your life. A complete knuckle-dragging Ludditism, even when he wrote the book, even more incomprehensible today. He used to do a fairly brisk business in the lecture circuit realm, maybe still does, telling people that he doesn't have email, that he does no social media, and he gets along just fine, that he isn't missing anything. And taken as a call to digitally declutter your life, to make sure that the digital world is not ruling your life, fine. It's a good call to do that. Any call like that is good. But taken as a statement of fact, first of all, I don't think Cal Newport has ever been telling the truth about the extent of his own digital organization. Or as a matter of observable reality, it's nonsense. The digital aspect of life is part of life, unless you're making some weird atavistic, stoic bourbon drinker in the woods type point about it, in which case no one wants to know you. You're the Unabomber. but otherwise, normal people saying this is some sort of manifest evil and must be rooted out of your life is utterly ridiculous. It's a question of self-control. It's a question of proportion. It's not a question of all or nothing. There is a very strong case to be made. I almost made it. I almost wrote about this book in this way. There's a very strong case to be made that this is fundamentally a religious text. And I'm not going to push that point, but you can guess what I think about that kind of thinking. It's not doing anybody any good. It's not only unrealistic, I believe it's untruthful. But the book is interesting, very compelling, and a landmark in the type of book that I'm talking about. Okay, then Echo Press decades ago came out with this lovely thing, Personal Pleasures by Rose Macaulay, the author of The Towers of Trebizond. This is a collection of little personal squibs, little columns that she did on staying in bed, or reading, or catalogs, or relatives, or catching a bus. All wonderful. She could not write a bad sentence. I was very happy to see this reprinted, although I very much wouldn't mind, let's see an example, I very much wouldn't mind finding an older copy, a hardcover copy of Personal Pleasures. I very much wouldn't mind that at all, but this is lovely. I'll take it, absolutely. Then what is next here? Oh, fantastic. This is a hardcover 85th anniversary of Jaws. Okay. It's the 85th anniversary of the Book of the Month Club. Not the 85th anniversary of Jaws. A lot of you just had a heart attack. And this is Peter Benchley's great story about a seaside resort town that is plagued by a giant killer shark. This is a seminal novel. It changed the whole way that people in America go to the beach. And when this came out in a hardcover, I can still find hardcovers at the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston every once in a while. The original hardcover of this had an ugly cover. It was black with the sketchy outline of a shark. It certainly wasn't evocative visually, and on top of that, it certainly wasn't iconic. This movie poster cover is completely iconic. It's not just that it's better than the hardcover, it's better than anything. It's an iconic cover. But for the longest time, if you wanted this cover, you had to get the paperback. And for the longest time, I had a string of mass market paperbacks with this cover. I don't at the moment. I would grab such a thing. But I kept thinking, well, it'd be great if there were a hardcover with the iconic cover. There's no way to think about Jaws without thinking about this movie poster. And then Book of the Month Club did it, and I was very happy about that. Very happy indeed. I actually like revisiting Jaws. I like rereading. I think it holds up to a reread. Okay. This is by our very own Britta Bowler, fellow booktuber. This is The Good Lawyer. A book I could have wished, this is nonfiction work, and it's a book I could have wished were 10 times as long. It's a book that the world really needs. It's a book about, among other things, lawyers who are not the embodiment of evil. Lawyers who are doing good in the world, who are trying to do good. I could have wished it to be a lot longer. This is basically a meditation, when I'd very much like a longer book on the subject from that author. Okay, then we have a science fiction anthology. This is edited by the great Terry Carr. This is Universe 10. The only reason this is in here and no other science fiction, or not many other science fiction anthologies are, is because this is a hardcover with a copy with a story in it called The Ugly Chickens by Howard Waldrop, and I love that story. I mean, there are other great things in here. There's a great James Tiptree story in here, I believe. Yeah, A Source of Innocent Merriment by James Tiptree is in here. That's also really good. But The Ugly Chickens is probably my favorite science fiction story, and I have a hardcover with it in it, which is good. Okay, then we have a book that is a lot about reading. This is heavily underlined. This is Letters to Alice on First Reading Jane Austen by Faye Weldon. A lovely paperback edition. I think I have this as an ebook, and I've had it in other formats as well. But this is on one level an epistolary novel, letters between an older relative and the eponymous Alice, who is growing up and starting to learn how to read, starting to learn to read as an adult for real. But it ends up being a hugely wonderful meditation on reading that, again, I go back to often. Okay, all right. These next two are a pair. We'll look at them together. This is A.M. Duff, who did a literary history of Rome in 2 volumes, from the origins to the close of the Golden Age, and then from the Silver Age, from Tiberius to Hadrian. These are great. These are fantastic volumes there. I don't know if I'll be able to make it out. Yeah, they're heavily footnoted, heavily annotated, heavily sourced. Really, really wonderful if you want to go, even now, after all this time. These things are old. Are you going to obediently tell me when you came out? No, you're not. All right. Well, it would have been the 1950s, something like that, or even earlier than that. They're old, but the scholarship hasn't changed anything in them. So if you are wondering, what Duff has to say on some extremely minor Roman poet or Roman historian, this is going to give you everything all in one place, which is really neat. Okay, all right. This is a volume by Tony Kushner. This is Angels in America, both parts, Perestroika and the Millennium Approaches. Taken together as one play. This is utterly brilliant, just amazingly brilliant. About, among many other things, it's about homosexuality in the age of AIDS. But one of the main plot lines is that one of the main characters, Prior Walter, is visited by an angel. And the angel is a little bit fallible, but has ultimately a damning message to import that may or may not be coming. It may or may not be a delusion, and it may or may not be coming straight out of Prior Walter's mind as a result of finding himself caught up in the absolutely apocalyptic reality of AIDS. An amazing thing, if you ever get a chance to see it on stage, definitely see it on stage if you can. There are some gimmicks that go into major Broadway stage productions, and you have to hope that you will see them done really well. Like, for instance, the major gimmick in Phantom of the Opera is the crashing of the chandelier, which you don't think can happen. You don't think that it can happen on a stage in a controlled way. And when it does, it blows you away. Or in Sunday in the Park with George, there's a gimmick at the close of the first part of that play that involves the famous island, the famous painting, and you don't think it can be pulled off. And when it does, when it is pulled off, it blows you away. And the same thing is true with Angels in America. There is a climactic moment early on in the play cycle where the angel crashes through Prior Walter's roof. And if you get a good stage production, that will be a real show-stopping number. Okay, right next to Angels in America. Isn't that something? This is David Levithan's book, Two Boys Kissing, which is a high school romance, high school gay romance, a couple of main characters, a brace of main characters, but the whole thing is narrated by a chorus of dead gay men, a chorus of gay men who did not survive the AIDS epidemic, and who are looking at these boys who are free to kiss in public. They're free to hold hands in public. They're free to join their school's gay and lesbian alliance. And it adds a layer that I don't know David Levithan. I have no idea who he is, but boy, oh boy, does it work. I thought it was amazing. Okay, this next one is George Pitcher. This is a very rare instance where I love dogs. I love dogs more than anyone. I always have. But I don't have a whole lot of dog books. I certainly don't have them all. I'm fairly picky about which ones are even worth opening. And this one is really, really good. This is by George Pitcher, and it's called The Dogs Who Came to Stay. And it's got a little black and white illustrations all throughout, and it's vignettes from the author's dog life. Done wonderfully. Just done wonderfully. Without any of the stupid, sappy sentimentality, but also without brutality either. The Dogs Who Came to Stay is one of those dog books, one of the few in this room that's very much worth your time. Then we have, this is Joseph C. Lincoln and Harold Brett. This is Cape Cod Yesterdays. Joseph C. Lincoln was a very, very popular novelist. Oh, look at that. Passing a winter church, horse-drawn carriage in the olden days of Cape Cod. I love Cape Cod. I have lots and lots of Cape Cod books. I'm just realizing that the other day, was it yesterday? Yes, it was yesterday. The shelf that I'm looking at right here has 5 Cape Cod books. This should be on that shelf. I don't want to rearrange things, but that's awful tempting. That is awful tempting. Cape Cod has been obsessed with its own historic vanished past forever. You go back 400 years, talk to early musket-wielding settlers on Cape Cod, and they will say, yeah, it isn't what it used to be. It's just the national pastime of Cape Cod to say, it's not what it used to be. And this is one of the cottage industry of books that just play to that. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, all right. Well, this is Gladys Tabor. Here, let's get schmutz off it. This is My Own Cape Cod. Gladys Tabor wrote a string of books with Still Meadow in the title that actually did brisk business. They were very, very popular 60 years ago. There were, I think, half a dozen of them. And they were really, really popular evocations of small house, small town living. And My Own Cape Cod is able to do that with Cape Cod because for a long time that was Cape Cod. It was rural, small town living. No heat in the house, no internal plumbing in the house. The remnants of that are all but gone. But they did exist for a long time. People wrote books about them because they'd go out to Cape Cod to get a nice rambling old house, maybe start a chicken coop or have a pasture or go fishing and write about them. This is absolutely charming. But it's another Cape Cod book. That's pretty tempting to rearrange those so that they at least are together. But I'm worried that if I start rearranging, I'll just keep doing it. But anyway, that's the next shelf in the Library Tour of America. Library Tour of America. The Library Tour of 2022. Next time, I'm going to have to be sitting down because otherwise I would be going out of camera range for every book, and that can't be. You must keep your eyes on the prize. So I will bring in a chair so that I don't have to stoop. But I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.